extremely different that I kind of looked around here and thought, what happened? And basically just began for the first time to really educate myself with intention about the history of race in this city in particular and race dynamics in the country generally. And then it seems like, you know, alongside my own education, this national dialogue has arisen. And when the situation in Ferguson really kind of came to fruition and went from just another incident to this really movement building, energizing phenomenon, I felt really moved because I grew up so close to that and had this kind of self educating experience of, like, you know, recognizing more about what's happening around race in this country to make some kind of response. And basically the thing that came to my mind one day was just that phenomenon where the flavor of your own water at home, wherever that is nothing. You know, you think of water as flavorless, but the other people's water anywhere else you might go, it sort of tastes weird. You're always like, whoa, the water tastes like something, you know. And thinking of that as a metaphor for the ways in which white privilege can let you acclimate and be blinded to the manifestations of racial inequality. So thinking about that metaphor with relation to Ferguson and kind of harnessing the power of Ferguson as this iconic location and reference that it's become. So basically my idea is to bring into a gallery space a volume of water that is tap water from Ferguson, Missouri, and the viewer experience will just be to consume like a tiny little sample. My hope is to kind of evoke that metaphor in people's minds, or at the least create this very intimate, direct, personal experience for them, so that when they take this water like into their body from this place, it will give them some kind of response. It will give them some kind of feelings and ideas that they will then be able to reflect on their own points of reference and how they're relating to the larger national dialogue and stuff like that. So that's an idea I'm really excited about. I've kind of had it on the back burner to work around the topic of race and not really known as a person with so much privilege, like where my voice was relevant in that topic. And this felt like something that could be very personal and at the same time not didactic. I'm not trying to tell someone what to think about it, but leading them to an opportunity to have their own thoughts. So that's been gaining some interest and momentum, and potentially partnering with some people in town. And it's been an amazing opportunity to reach out and share my idea with organizations and individual artists that I didn't previously know, which has been enriching for me. So hopefully that will go the next step and become something that could be enriching for other people as well.
Right on.
So installation-wise, that's the big project on the horizon for me.
Right. Do you have a goal to when you want to release this to the public?
Well, I mean, to some extent, I worry that the poignancy of the reference could diminish a little bit. I mean, if there's a huge movement around another incident that arises, which unfortunately surely will happen, then Ferguson could be somewhat supplanted. And so I feel some, kind of urgency. But at the same time, to me, it's essential that it not be something I'm like, pushing too hard, that it be something that if it's speaking to people and, finding a home for that idea, that it happen a little more organically. So I think it kind of just depends on who becomes interested in it and what kind of opportunities arise. But I'm hoping that for sure sometime this year, I'll get to see that fully demonstrated and, open to the public. So I'll keep you posted.
Sweet. I'm really excited. That sounds
cool.
Great.
Thanks.
What do you want your art to turn into for like the future? Do you want to be traveling, doing installations?
Yeah, I mean, if I could just wave my magic wand, for sure what I've always imagined is that the time would come And I never wanted it when I was young because I think I just didn't, I don't know, I needed to deal with my own stuff. But I do love to envision a future where I could be art making and collaborating and curating and, you know, kind of actively involved in finding ways to manifest concepts in art spaces all the time, which would mean probably traveling, maybe somewhat of teaching, you know, maybe something would eventually offshoot from one of my projects that would be more sellable, and so there'd be some, you know, whether it's like a product of some sort, or I don't know, I mean, I guess probably like a lot of artists, I'm kind of just riding the wave, you know. I'm also interested in design. I briefly had a piñata business. I was making custom piñatas, which as it grew quite quickly to have some success, you know, revealed to me some aspects of putting my art making efforts into a commercial project as being like a major art buzzkill and not really the right fit for me.
Right.
So I think kind of like sort of supporting the ability for my work to be like remain totally conceptual, unsellable type of stuff, you know. So I guess really all I want is just to be able to keep making, you know, continue to be able to always have that next project. Because I'm always like, my mind, the way it works is like about 2/3 of the way through one project, no matter how much I love it, I'm starting to be thinking about the next project more. You know, so mostly it's like learning the discipline to make something come of those ideas before moving on to the next thing.
Definitely.
But
I have a hard time finishing projects that I start.
Yeah. But I love to share my work with people, whatever that, I mean, you know, I don't know if that's kind of, I mean, it's a funny kind of thing that gets entangled with entitlement and ego, but there's this urge to make something not just for myself, but to be shared. So, I mean, I guess my highest aspiration probably as an artist is that I would continue to be able to move towards work that has something that just makes people feel that they relate to it, that it is relevant in some way, you know. And I guess I just aspire to probably trying to be as honest as I possibly can in the work, because to me that's got to be the only way to really make it catch, you know, really make it work. So rather than probably thinking about like logistically where I aspire to, it's more for me about like in my process and what I'm making, what I aspire to. If that makes sense.
How do you have a website?
Yes, yeah, I have a website. It is soon to become mollyalloy.com.
Okay.
Because I just got married in September.
Congratulations.
I changed my name. So a little bit of rebranding. So yeah, mollyalloy.com would be the place to go. mollyalloyart@gmail would be a place to contact me. And of course, I'd love to hear from anybody who's interested.
And
also,
is there a place on there where they can donate towards your installations?
That would be amazing if somebody wanted to do that. There isn't, but if somebody had any leads to opportunities or funding stream of any sort, definitely just dropping me a line would be a perfect way to go.
Right on.
And we could take it from there. Yeah, that would be wonderful. Earlier you had asked about me being a painter. I was thinking to maybe take a second and kind of explain why we're standing in front of a bunch of paintings.
Definitely.
Because I had this experience at the end of 2011, I was in a big car accident, and the car accident triggered an extreme escalation of a pre-existing disease that I have called endometriosis, which I won't totally get into, but it's the kind of thing that could be not that bad or really, really bad, and mine was at the, you know, extreme end of it, and the end result has been several years of being almost totally disabled, out of work, and unable to work like with the objects and tools that I was used to for art making, and as well kind of, you know, just becoming a very different sort of entity in how it relates to the larger society. And so from that came a need to have some creative outlet, and that brought me to drawing, which started out little tiny pencil drawings, you know, and then just gotten bigger and bigger as I've gotten stronger and regained my health. So the body of work that I now have is the first body of work I've ever made that's like really kind of telling my personal stories and kind of trying to just dig into that experience and everything that came out of it for me, and putting that into these drawings and paintings. And that will be showing at the Red E on Killingsworth.
Right on.
Which I'm super excited about. They're going to show all this work, dildos and all. And I think that's going to be incredible because, again, sort of as an installation artist, to put that work into a coffee shop, to me, is really kind of a lifelong dream of putting like very, I mean, you know, work that is unexpected for the context into this space, because a coffee shop to me is like, you know, that iconic object that I'm always drawn to, but in a locational manifestation where it's something that's people feel very commonplace about and yet very deeply about. So I think that's totally amazing of them to host this show. I'm partnering with this magazine, Gertrude Press, this incredible queer feminist magazine, and some awesome queer feminist bands from the Portland area, and we're going to have like a whole panel discussion and big sort of party for the opening.
Wow.
And Jeffrey has helped me kind of pull that all together and like imagine that event into something really, you know, sort of like fully formed. So that's going to be happening June 11th. So that's kind of my next big thing on the horizon, which of course I would love to see everybody there.
If you send me an invite, I'll accept it.
Yes.
I'll be there.
Sounds good. Can do. Yeah.
So let's show off some of the work that's going to be in there.
Cool.
Oops.